Well, thank you guys for jumping on. Really appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about your guys' brand. I obviously looked into it. I'm probably the biggest fan of meat that you could ever find. So I'm a huge fan of this call as well. But yeah, tell me a little about you guys, what you have going on.
Yeah, so we're a meat delivery company. There's a lot of those out there these days. We started with like pop-up shops, so we weren't an e-commerce brand when we started. We kind of became that in 2020, 2021, pivoted to a fully online e-commerce model, wanted to have longer relationships with the people that we were supplying meat to. And from the start, the core when we started the pop-up shops was all about just transparency in the meat industry and there not being enough of it. Our founder had worked with another company and it felt like he was having to deceive the customers or the buyers who were buying the products with labels that don't mean anything,
Yeah.
selling imported goods under a US label. And that happens so often. So he really wanted to create a better way to get food for his family, and that obviously grew into what we do today. All American products that we source from farms and ranches across the U.S., put them in boxes, bring it to people's doors. And so we're trying to cut out we say take the mystery out of the meat aisle. And so that's kind of like our core value prop is if you feel like you've been buying crap in all the other aisles, you've definitely been buying crap in the meat aisle that's been shielded by labels that people spend billions of dollars to make you think are valuable, but they
Yep.
actually don't do anything for the quality of the food that you're eating. So that's sort of where we come. And since we started online, and it's just been really explosive growth. A lot of people loving the all American products, loving that they have a transparent source. And so we've grown year over year very fast. I was the first online employee, and now there's 50 people in an office. So there's
Very
been a
cool.
lot behind it. And yeah, we're kind of at that stage where we're looking for ways to solidify ourselves, ways to continue to capture on some of our brand. When you start, you have zero brand. Now we definitely have people who know who we are, who have heard about us from podcasts, personalities that we work with, as well as past 2 years we've done some
Hmm.
and been on the side of Scott McLaughlin on Team Penske. We've won a couple in the national television in our car, so
Oh, sick.
people have heard. Obviously, there's a lot of people who try and home in on that and compete for us, and also could just compete for our share of boys. Anyways, that's my very long-winded way of telling you who we are and where we're at.
No, it's great. I love the mission. I'm a huge label reader, and I know the struggle for sure of trying to find good quality food. I'm actually moving to Scotland in August for that very purpose because just the food in the US just continues to go downhill, and then the labels, they continue to make them more and more tricky, like saying it's grass fed when they had grass like once in their life maybe. you know so I fully understand that, and I love that the mission that you guys have. So it's good that one, we're able to connect, but also that there's a possibility for a partnership with someone that I actually truly believe in. So I think that's awesome. um, and then you guys, as far as marketing goes, have you dabbled in SEO in the past, or is this kind of your first dive into it?
Yeah, I would say that we've never really had a full strategy behind SEO outside of like being the main copywriters. I'm the marketing director, by the way. She's our head copywriter here as well. So, I mean, we've written a lot of longer form content, like blogs and things,
Okay.
but not at a crazy rate and not with the intention of SEO ranking. It's more so been for news stories that we think we can push on other channels in email, on social to create a conversation and also just establish ourselves as a thought leader. Um, and some stuff trickles in from that, but I don't think we've ever had an intentional strategy for long form. Definitely never for short, like tail keywords on our site either of strategic placement there. We've never really had a strong strategy around what words we're using, what naming conventions we're using, and what we're really trying to like set ourselves up for of
Yeah.
being like a leader in.
my only experience with SEO is meta descriptions. So
Great, you're almost there. So great. I'll give you guys kind of like a little intro of who we are, what the process. We do all of our proposals custom because we do it based on data. So a lot of work, a lot of energy goes into us even kind of pitching our service to people because we want to make sure that it's entirely custom to the client's needs and that we're actually getting proper data to be able to tell you what the possibilities are and what we can actually do for you. So this first call, this one's generally just a short 15 to 20 minute calls. I don't even generally hop on these, but I saw Meet and I had to be here. So normally Jake handles these, but I wanted to make sure that I could walk through it with you guys just so that I can make sure that you have the most seamless experience through learning the possibilities for your brand for SEO. So there's nothing really that I can tell you of like, hey, this is the possibility because there's just a few questions and things that and information we want to get from you first before we can even dive into that.
for the SEO
Side of things, just had a few questions for you guys. And then from there, then that's when we'll be able to fully build out something for you guys. My first question is, I know that you put on the survey that you guys were doing about 5 million a month. What's the exact revenue range that you guys are sitting at right now? Obviously, it'll vary month to month based on the time of the year, but just on average.
Yeah, so I mean, just this past month, I mean, we hit like 551, and then we're projecting to do like 5.5 this coming month is what we're shooting at. Month before that, we were a little sub 5, and then April was right under 5, and March was our largest one so far at like 5.6.
Okay, so steady growth so far.
as far as year over year goes. And then
What's your main source of lead acquisition? Where are you guys getting the majority of your sales from?
Yeah, I think a lot of our traffic, we're primarily from an e-commerce standpoint, I would say our marketing mix is flipped from the normal of we invest heavily in radio and podcasts. The last couple months, we haven't really even done a ton of digital advertising in Meta and Google. We're just now ramping that back up from literally like cold turkey cutting it because we felt like an agency we were working with was kind of just blowing money. And we were like, it doesn't seem like it's driving anything big and certainly not anything incremental that we can see.
Okay.
But I think we've seen traffic fall off there a little bit, but conversions haven't fallen off as much. We're still getting our high priority buyers coming from direct, coming from Google. We get some through Twitter that I do ads on. And then Klaviyo is a big, obviously, sale generator for us. Coming to our site
Right.
after 8 to 12,000 people through our pop-up forms a month right now for that lead gen.
Beautiful. I love that. Awesome. So not a lot of you didn't mention Google ads, did you?
Yeah, those are what we ran those up until March 15th. So this year through Q1, we had a decent presence on Google, but turned those off with Meta ads because that was a call from our founder. Just like I feel like we're wasting money. Just now starting to kind of start that back up again of like, how can we do this the right way? We need to have a presence here, but our strategy before felt broken.
Do you know more or less how much revenue you have coming from Google organically, not necessarily from ads, but organically? Are you guys tracking that in Google Analytics or?
I have that we have a Looker Studio where we can segment. Is there a time frame? I can pull that right now, but I mean, what's a good time frame for you to see? Do you just want the last month? Do you want the last
Sure.
quarter?
We can do last month because yeah, I mean generally it won't vary too much for SEO.
So Google last month did somewhere between 600 and 700 conversions for us, which was a little north of 130,000 in revenue.
Okay, beautiful. And then you guys mentioned that you haven't spent any money or done kind of any push towards SEO in the past.
Yeah, no, not intentionally. We wrote stuff, but not with SEO in mind.
That makes sense. And then as far as your budget for what you're looking to invest towards SEO, obviously SEO isn't like ads where you put $1 in and you get $5 out. Sometimes takes more time. With you guys, thankfully, you have been on the internet for a while, so you have a pretty solid domain authority as far as like the grade that Google gives you. So it's not going to be that hard to start ranking for some of the keywords that we want to. So I don't anticipate it taking 3 months or so to get the growth. I anticipate it taking a couple weeks to get it. Whereas for someone that was starting from zero, it can take anywhere from like 3 to 6 months to start seeing a significant increase in the revenue. But having said that, have you guys kind of thought about or deduced kind of a budget that you would want to land around as far as like a per month basis?
To be honest, not really. Not having not done this before. I mean, we're not even really in the realm of knowing how much, you guys think it's actually going to take to get some of those returns.
Sure.
And like you said, not immediate returns, but of like, hey, if you guys partnered with us for 60 days, these are the actions we're going to take. This is the work that's incumbent, but here's what we think we're going to see from a lift perspective as a generalized estimate. So I couldn't give you a number. And I haven't really even talked with head leadership. This was, I think, set up by Vin, our CEO. So yeah, I'm jumping in here. This is something he's interested in. We've been looking at, we've done stuff in paid media before and spent money with agencies and stuff. And, so I would say from a range of we've spent 5,000 on agencies a month, we've spent 25,000 on agencies a month. If they're running a lot of stuff, that could be anything in there. If it's worth its salt is something that we could be talking about from a lift standpoint or a work standpoint. So that's kind of just a ballpark of things we've done in the past for paid media. But when it comes to even have a frame of reference.
Makes perfect sense. So just to give you kind of that frame of reference, we start at around 33 and it can go all the way up to 3,300 and it can go all the way up to 20,000. So we generally like to build the proposals where you feel comfortable. Looking at your domain authority, you have an authority score of 40, which is quite high. So the competition for certain keywords that we're going to want to go are going to be a little bit more stiff, which requires to take a little bit more of action. The idea behind SEO is it's not like media buying where you can just have kind of one media buyer in there and maybe like a strategist and a team helping them out. SEO requires a lot of labor. So when you work with us, you get 7 developers that are working specifically for you. You get an account strategist, you get myself and my COO. So there is a lot of people that go into it and a lot of labor. So that it's not like, oh, I'm going to invest 100,000 in ads with one media buyer and then that's what I'm paying for is that one media buyer. It's the labor that goes into it, but the returns are significantly better. So for us, for example, in the past 2 years, we've done 120 million from SEO, from just organic Google non-branded search items. You guys have a lot of branded search right now that you're ranking for, meaning that it's people looking for your name. About 50% of your organic traffic is that. Our goal is to get cold traffic of people that have no idea who you are, who's just looking for meat. And so that's one of the things that we would try and push towards. So yes, you're making a lot organically, but about 50% of that, or about 50,000 of that, is people that have already seen your ads, that saw your name on the side of a whatever, and then they Googled you and then they found you that way. So our main goal would be to bring in people that have no idea who you are, or those first cold time buyers. And so for every client that's worked with us throughout the history of our company, everyone's averaged a 21x, right? That's not something that you can get from ads. Obviously, you can't put $1 into ads and then get 21 out. And then those that stay with us for a year, on average, everyone gets 45 to 55x, right? So that's why people like SEO. One, which I'm sure is the reason that your CEO is interested in it, is because one, it scales over time. So the more time, the more energy you invest in it, the more you make and the more it compounds continually, right? So I have brands that have been working for us for a year and now they're doing $1 million a month in organic revenue just because they've been doing it for a year. Alternatively, also for valuations of companies, organic revenue is valued significantly higher than even brand awareness or ad revenue or anything like that. So that's another reason that a lot of people like kind of that SEO revenue to come through, because it's consistent, right? Like if you stop doing SEO tomorrow, you guys haven't even done SEO and you're already making 100,000, right? So it's one of those things that just continually compounds over time. So for you guys, I would want to be a little bit more aggressive. because of the position that you're currently sitting in as far as having a good domain authority, and your competitors have probably been doing SEO for many, many years. That's one of the things that we'll do inside of our proposal is we'll look at your competitors, look how much they're spending on SEO, and seeing more or less kind of their range. But yeah, the main idea of asking kind of the budget question, because I don't want to come back to you and be like, oh, here's a proposal for 7,000. You're like, oh my gosh, that's way more than we thought we wanted to spend, right? So that's kind of why we ask that question, just so that we don't catch people off guard. Or if we come back and we're like, hey, here's one for 4,000, you're like, ooh, that's not quite as aggressive as we want to be as far as our approach to it. So that's kind of why we ask that question.
Yeah, no, and I love that. And I think, yeah, you guys being able to set forth of like, again, we don't necessarily have a strategy behind SEO of like, I want to go and steal all of keywords or like, you know, and be able to things like that's not where we're coming from, but we definitely know when we get put in the mix with people and we're in the consideration phase, we win out a lot against our competitors because we've done things to make claims that they won't make claims on that people are looking more and more for these days. So it's like what you said, being in consideration, bringing in those people who are in the market but not aware. So, yeah, that also.
That's precisely why I've never gone with like or someone like that, because the quality has never been there for me. And so I see that for sure, even from a consumer point of view.
Oh, maybe I'll even
put two kind of options together for you guys, just so that we can look at that. But I also want to look at your competitors to really see how much they're doing. And then from there, kind of give you an idea of like, hey, if you guys want to actually go to head toe to toe with them, like this is kind of what I recommend for you. And we'll go forward on that range. But I'm going to try and put it somewhere in like the 5 to 10 range. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, beautiful.
What do you think strategically for your team and what's necessary? Like, I want to see that so that we can know as a team, like, if we're going to take on a strategy like this, we don't want to do anything half-hearted.
Right.
So just, oh, well, we're quote unquote doing SEO. Like, if we're going to do it, let's do it right and do it to win.
Yeah.
I also want to prove ourselves to you, right? So I don't want to be like, hey, let's start at 15K. And then you guys are like, well, I'm not even quite sure if you're going to do this. I'd much rather scale with time once you see our work and once you see our results. So that for me is significantly more valuable than being like, hey, let's go aggressive right on the first 30 days.
Yeah, I think that's super smart too. And I think that'll help a lot on sign off as well from some of the other decision makers. I'm curious from an SEO standpoint, when you're talking like y'all's team and developers, like, I'm sure we can get into this more, but just so I understand it, like, what is it core like site, like copy or crawling that Google's doing? Like, what's the goal from an SEO standpoint from your team's perspective? Like, how do y'all sort of start to tackle the beast?
I can give you a general description. After we do the audit, then I'll be able to kind of point to the exact things that would need to be done, because we'll do an audit. We'll crawl your site just like Google would, and we'll come up with and see how many errors. If you don't have errors, then there wouldn't be like much code work or physical development stuff that needs to be done on your actual site. But we do SEO basically full stack. So generally when I explain SEO to people, I break it up into 3 different pillars. The first pillar is on-site. So it's those things that you're talking about of like optimizing the images on your website, making sure the code is optimized, making sure that your meta tags and your meta descriptions and your title tags aren't duplicated across the whole website, that they're all unique on each page, that you have like frequently asked questions written on all of your product pages and all of your category pages, different things like that. So that's kind of like all the on-site. The second thing is the content creation and optimization. So one of the things that's kind of pivoted from SEO that used to be prevalent a year or 2 years ago is kind of that blog content that you guys were talking about. We don't really do a ton of that for our clients anymore because it doesn't drive revenue anymore. The conversion rate for blogs is very, very low. It's like 0.001%. I'm sure you guys have seen that. So we don't invest a lot of our time and energy into writing blogs because, as you know, it does take a lot of time and energy, because it isn't that revenue driving thing that we're looking to do. Even if you can rank a blog properly for certain keywords, you're still not going to get a great conversion rate. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to rank your product pages and your collection pages, not even necessarily your home page, mostly the product and collection pages, 4 keywords that are transactional and commercial keywords. So we actually have a software where we can see people's intents when they're Googling something. So if they're Googling a meat, say meat subscription or something like that, or a ribeye subscription to my door or something like that, we can see whether or not that person, what like the conversion rate of someone Googling that would be, like if they're actually buying something or if they're just looking for information. And that's one of the problems with most blogs, is most blogs rank for informational keywords, and it's people that are just looking like, what's the difference between grass-fed and grain-fed or whatever, and then it's just, they're not going to convert. They just want to know the information. So we go after those types of transactional and commercial keywords. So when we refer to the second pillar of content, we're not referring to writing informational blogs for you so that we get informational people. We're referring to optimizing content on your product pages, on your collection pages, where we're actually ranking you for keywords that have a high conversion rate onto that. So that with that, we also do some CRO work that is done on your site. It's not your traditional CRO where you're A/B testing landing pages, because obviously that doesn't really work when you're spending a month driving traffic to one page. You're not going to spend the next month trying to drive it to another page. It's more of making data-driven tweaks and data-driven changes, or knowing that there's things that in our system you guys are missing, adding those on there to be able to increase that conversion rate. So for example, we started with a brand about 3 months ago, and they came back to us in 3 months and their conversion rate was up 116%. So not even talking about new traffic driven to them, just the conversion rate itself was able to increase, which is already bringing the brand more revenue. And part of that is based and due to the research that we do behind the keywords and which keywords are actually people are actually converting on. So that's the second pillar, which is that content side of things. The third pillar, which is arguably one of the most important, is backlinks, which is that social proof, which is other websites, other blogs and stuff talking about you. So that's one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves in, is doing very high quality backlinks. Our philosophy is quality over quantity, whereas most people's philosophy is quantity over quality. So you'll see a bunch of websites where they have a ton of backlinks that are below like a 20 domain authority, where all of our backlinks are above a 40. And we even like to work with certain websites that are above an 80 to be able to really bring in that quality for those brands. So that's one of the things that I guarantee, without even looking at your competitors' websites, I guarantee that your competitors are doing or going after mass backlinks of low quality websites, right? So we like to focus, as I was mentioning, on those high quality backlinks. And then we also, one of the things that we've introduced in the last 6 months, which we've seen the increase in the traffic that we're bringing the brands, we do this for more of the premium brands that we work with, has increased is 50% faster than our previous strategy, where we're actually doing PR articles. But I've been working for like the past 2 years with these PR publications to get something that what we call do follow backlinks inside of like the SEO world. There's a backlink that's called a no follow, and there's a backlink that's called a do follow. And that's something that the website can put in the code of the backlink. And basically what it says to Google is like, hey, if it's a no follow, it's like, hey, I'm referencing these guys, but I don't want you to pass them any of my Google juice, which is what I call it. I don't want you to pass them any of my social proof. I'm just kind of mentioning them in my blog. And you guys will have a few of those backlinks as well that I'll kind of show you so that you can see it as an example. And then there's something called follow links. And those are the ones that actually show Google like, hey, I'm backing these guys. I really want these guys to succeed. I'm giving them all my social proof, pass them on. So we were actually able to negotiate deals with a lot of these PR articles like New York Weekly, LA Times, different things like that, where we get do follow links from them. And then that really hyper activates kind of like that SEO growth and that domain authority in the eyes of Google, because these are sites that, as you know, they get millions of visitors every single month, and they don't give out do follow links very often, right? So it's very rare that actually happens. So that's kind of the 3-prong process that we go through. And so everything is entirely done for you. And the brands that we work with, it's entirely up to you how involved or how disconnected you are from the actual strategy. You get reports on a weekly basis of the growth of your keywords, of the traffic, of the revenue, as well as a monthly call with your account executive. where I will be present on those calls as well, and then where you actually get information on what's going on and a step-by-step process. Even if you don't understand it, like we can say, oh, we changed all your meta tags. And you're like, I don't know what the heck a meta tag is, but thank you for changing it. Where we show you step-by-step every single task that we do, so you don't feel like you're in the dark. So that's kind of the process that we go through with our strategy and how we do SEO. But to answer your question directly, I know that was kind of a long-winded answer. We don't know the specifics that will need to be done on your site until we actually do the full audit.
Well, no, I super appreciate the long-winded answer. As someone who's like just trying to wrap our heads around it.
Right.
I love understanding the different areas and how people are doing things. So sounds great. If we can do any kinds of those numbers, sign me up, Zach.
Awesome.
A few questions. You mentioned, what other competitors do you guys have going on right now as far as in the DTC space?
Yeah, I think they're sort of there, but they're not as heavy subscription, but they're definitely meat delivery. So is a big one too. They're owned by, that's kind of like their meat delivery arm. Some of the other ones are starting to kind of teeter out. One, but I think that they're kind of having some bad years. They're probably on a last leg. Some more premium ones might be like, or those are some higher end meat deliveries. So I would say those are probably the top ones when I think of our core competitors in the meat delivery space.
Yeah.
And then obviously we're going to do our research and kind of find what's best for you. But are there any keywords where you guys are like, man, I'd really like to rank #1 for this keyword, and I know our competitors are, and I'd really like to? If you don't have anything, that's perfectly fine. But sometimes people will come to us and they'll be like, man, I just really want to rank for this keyword.
I don't know if I necessarily have a specific keyword. I would say one thing that I've been looking at a lot is we just went to, there is, in fact, a meat conference. It happens every year. State of like the meat.
I'll be there.
And they did.
There's not enough meat, let me tell you that. If you want to sit through everything about like pork futures and commodity markets, that's the place to be. But
A lot of graphs.
a lot of graphs.
A lot of
graphs. One of them showed that one of the biggest things consumers are looking for from a label standpoint or from a meat industry standpoint is product of USA. There's a lot of confusion around that, and so like I think we're an American meat company. We kind of like want to be known as like, if you want American meat delivered, I'm not sure what keywords would be the most search volume useful in that sense. But if people are looking for local American food or American meat, we know for a fact that those are people who are probably going to gravitate towards our mission statement, towards sort of the way we've structured our business. So that would be my only thought of maybe looking around and seeing what keywords we think could be either peripheral like to that, or more dead on the money, that we think that kind of is that kind of intent consumer.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, in this proposal, we'll give you an example of, say, somewhere around like 10 to 20 keywords. Once you actually work with us, we'll come up with a list of 100, 200, but it just gauges us more or less the difficulty and the competitiveness of the keywords that we want to go after, and then gives you an idea more or less of kind of the volume that comes through with those keywords, so that you can see what the potential is also. And then I don't think I have any other questions. Did you have any questions, Jake, that you wanted to add on?
Yeah, I just had one question for you guys. When are you guys most interested in starting SEO? Is this like a main priority for you guys right now, or?
Yeah, I would say I think that this is very top of mind for us. Like, so in the past, couple weeks, we've really started talking about. So I'd say we're pretty high intent on getting something moving, something, especially. We're kind of in the summer months, which are always great for grilling and stuff, but more stuff going to be coming too of, the Black Friday, the Cyber Mondays, the big digital war that goes on.
Even
Now it's time to prep for it.
B2B
gifting is something that, and they make their web traffic goes through the roof in those months.
Yeah.
We're launching our B2B program in probably 30 days to start to compete with those people too. So I mean, that site authority and some of those things too will be very useful to help us start to take some of that market share.
My business partner just sent me like 30 steaks for the wedding present, so that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Next time will be the box.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll tell him, like, bro, don't give me that crap anymore. I don't want any of that. Awesome. Yeah, we just like to gauge the interest because when we do these in-depth audits, one, it takes obviously a lot of labor from our team, but the second thing mainly is that the data does fluctuate quite a bit. So we like to do them around the time that someone's ready to start. So that, for example, we didn't do it now, and then you wanted to start in 3 months from now, and you're like, oh, well, on the audit, you told me all this information about this, then blah, blah. And we're just like, yeah, well, it's just not accurate anymore. So that's why we like to kind of gauge the time so that we build the audits around the exact period that you want to get started. But that's awesome. And then as far as Google ads go, would you guys be, I know you said you turned off your Google ads. Would you be interested in having that in the proposal? Would you be interested in us auditing the stuff that you've done in the past, or no interest in Google at all and just want to mainly discuss SEO?
I'd have to check. I mean, I'd be open to seeing y'all's audit of it if you guys want into the account. And I don't think crack some of the codes, but I'm definitely open to, as we're starting to think about moving forward with it. I'd love y'all's perspective since you seem to know the Google space in and out.
Yeah, that is something that we like to pair sometimes, our SEO with the Google ads, just because the strategies go pretty hand in hand. So it's sometimes good to complement. However, if SEO is your main focus, I want to make sure that we push that through first, and then if we want to revisit Google later, we can absolutely do that. Just so you understand our pricing for Google, we don't charge any retainers up front. It's all a percentage of the ad spend, and the percentage goes down as you spend more. So that's kind of the way that we structure it there. But regardless of if you want to start or not, we can still kind of take a look at your ad account. If that's something you want, we can pair that with our SEO audit, if that's something that you guys want to do.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Even, I mean, if it works out and you guys can do it, that's great. But at least we'll know y'all's opinions of like, hey, if we're going to do all this work on SEO, like these are kind of the areas that you guys need to probably be doing stuff in to really get the value out of it too that we're going to be doing with the site. So,
and then we'd like to set up a call as soon as you guys are available. We need as little as 48 hours. So if you're available on Thursday, that's great. If not, we can do Friday.
How long of a meeting do you guys want to schedule? 30 or an hour? Like what kind of time frame do you want to walk through the audit?
Yeah, especially if we're doing Google, it'll probably be closer to an hour. Yeah.
Okay.
So 45 to an hour.
Let's shoot for 10:30 then Central. 10:30 to 11:30 is open for me.
I just sent you that new Google Calendar. You'll speak to Max. He's our e-com expert. He scaled many 7-figure brands and even runs his own 8-figure brand. So should be looking forward to talking to you guys on Friday or on Thursday. My mistake.
Please. All right. Yeah, sounds great, guys. Did you
Need
guys
anything else from us today? Any questions? Anything else?
No, I think sounds great. Yeah, excited about this. I mean, I was laughing when you were talking about blogs, Zach, because I actually wrote one for Father's Day 2 years ago. And somehow it blew up, and we got like 60,000 visits over like each month for 2 months. Absolutely zero conversion. I couldn't. I put a pop up on there and said like get like $70 off, like the biggest discount I've ever given. Absolutely no one fills up the form. They're just there for the jokes.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's even if it's like more on topic of like I was saying, talking about the difference between like grass fed and grass finished or whatever. Like people still are they're there for the information. They don't care.
Yeah.
So, but if you guys need, I'll shoot you the link.
Oh, please.
That'd be great.
Alrighty, we'll
We'll talk soon. Appreciate the time.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.